Hey guys, Valerie V. We are live on Facebook. Hope everybody's doing well. Valerie V Show for Wednesday. And today we are going to interview Gregg Mazza with Home Care Breakthrough Solutions. Hey, I'm gonna turn on. Let's see. We're gonna turn on some of our. We had some people who are commenting already, waiting for you to come on live. Woo! And we're here. So that's awesome. So Gregg, I have a few questions for you. So we're going to try, and we have been doing a pretty good job of getting experts on our show who do not do what I do, and I don't do what you do. So we're going to interview you, and you can tell us all about the things that home care agencies need to know. Wonderful. So first of all,
thank you for having me. First of all, thank you.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad we could get it together for this one. It's been a technical difficulty day.
If only we could share everything that's transpired over the last hour.
Poor Gregg. He's a newbie, and it's okay. He's going to be an expert at all of this pretty soon. So, all right, we'll start with this way. So I know you sold your home care business, and now you coach home care owners how to grow and scale their business. So tell us a little about why you jumped into coaching and consulting.
It's a great question. Thank you. Let me lower this because I'm getting some feedback. But I owned a home care business for 10 years. The first 4 or 5 years in business was painful. It was painful. I thought I knew what I was doing. We owned a franchise, and I actually thought, like with the prior sales experience that I had, that I could just all of a sudden just jump right in and make it work. And quite honestly, the first few years was like drinking from a fire hose. And then we got to a point where we literally almost ran out of capital in our business or cash flow. And we put everything that we had into the business, and was really on the verge of losing everything. So it was really quite stressful, created a lot of strain on our relationship. My wife and I couldn't separate business and work. It was just like all blending together. Add to it that we had a new baby, a second one on the way, and it was just like, whew. So over the next 12 months, I realized I finally was able to push my ego aside, and I realized I don't know all the answers, and because I was in a newer franchise system at the time, it's like there were bits and pieces that they can help me with, but it's on me. It was my business, and I had to figure out how to make it work. So I started learning from people who, quite honestly, were way smarter than me, just way more advanced from like sales, marketing, strategy, those types of things, mostly outside of the industry. Over the next 12 months, we were able to increase over $1 million in revenue in our business, and it created freedom for us. It got us to a point where we can start building out our team and really start to delegate responsibilities, because everyone's numbers are going to be different. But when you're under like $1.5 million, $2 million in revenue, most people are in a business that's running them.
Yeah,
and that was just the case for me, especially in home care, because it's a lower margin business. So really, it's like we were everything. And yeah, we had some team members, but it was still so stressful. So when we finally got to a place where we can build out our team, and then over the next couple of years, we started to build some systems in place, and really got to a point where when we had our third child, I was able to take 8 months off from the business, and I didn't have to worry because we had that consistency of referrals coming in, whether it was me or one of my salespeople. And it really changed the dynamic of my life. And unfortunately, I still have friends that have been in business 7, 8, 10, 12 years that, quite frankly, are close to filing bankruptcy. So when we sold the business to switch schooling for my daughters. I've got 4 now. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but we moved out of state. And now my intention and my hope is that I can help people avoid some of the pain and some of the mistakes that so many home care owners make when it comes to growing their business. And, I don't wish upon anyone. I mean, I love home care, and I love what we were able to do and being able to help people, especially in a time where they're probably their most vulnerable time in their life, and they're losing their independence, and there's resistance that happens there because they don't want to lose their independence. So for us to be able to go in, provide some additional support, and help them really regain some independence, because now they have people that can take them out, they can do things, they can eat the foods that they want to eat, help with bathing. It really gives them a sense of dignity. So for me, when it comes to the business side of it, I want to be able to help home care owners get to a place in their business where they don't have to stress and worry about, like, gosh, am I going to lose? If I lose that 24/7 case, I don't know how we're going to make it up. I just don't know how we're going to make it up. And that's a very, very stressful place to be in. I know how stressful it was for me. So my hope is really to help people shortcut their success, or for some folks have had the taste of success, but then lost it because the market's become a lot more competitive. So by doing what I do, I really give people, some freedom and options in their business, and help alleviate some stress. So that's really why I got into doing what I do now.
Great. Well, that's, and I can't, you're exactly right. I can't tell you how many home care agencies, we've been doing this 10 years, and people have come and gone in those 10 years. Yeah. It's an amazing. They don't leave our services because they leave our services. They leave our services because they leave the business.
Right.
They just couldn't make it, or some people retire happily, and that's great. Right. But we have had so many that have, their intentions and their passion for it are so great, and it is so stressful sometimes. I think for everybody, no matter what business you start, right, but home care in particular, you have to have a real calling for that, I think. Yeah. And to not be able to continue it is rough.
Yeah. No,
So having said all of that, what are the biggest mistakes you see home care owners making when it comes to growing revenue with referral marketing?
Well, it's a great question. For me, I kind of, as I think about it, there's definitely mistakes, and then there's what I call like these painful experiences, or the things that they're struggling with. One is not having that consistency of referrals, because you have 2 1 week, one another week, 5, 0, 0. That piece can be very stressful. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be fluctuations, because there will be, but when your baseline of fluctuation, when your averages are at a sustainable point, you don't worry about hey, I had a 1 week, and because the next week you can have 10 or 15. So I think it's not having consistency of referrals. The bigger picture, a lot more competition, right? You have big investment groups that have gotten into the industry because you got the baby boomer population, and where in their mind where the money is, that's where they want to go. So they think that they can get into the healthcare business, and some of them can successfully, but you have a lot more investment groups that are investing into this space. You have now home health agencies, or Medicare home health agencies, that realize, like, hey, why not add a private duty component? So that's happening. A lot of your larger companies are starting to do that, like Kindred and some of the others. And what's also happening is that a lot of home care owners, they just don't have the time or make the time to consistently market their business. And that's a challenge, right? And it's so easy. And I was, I struggle with this at times too. Like, I told my office, like, if I'm in here, kick me out. I should not be in this office. And part of it is a little bit of call reluctance. Part of it is some people really don't like to sell. They don't like to be out there. They don't like rejection. And me too. I honestly, even though I've been selling for a long time, one of my first real sales jobs was selling above ground pools. And I'm not joking when I say this. Like, there were times where I would excuse myself from the sales floor, literally go into the bathroom, start crying, right? Because the sales approach that they had made me uncomfortable. And I would go in the bathroom, cry, and then come back out. And this happened repeatedly. People asked me, why didn't you quit? I was like, 1, I needed the money because this was way back in college. And 2, my mom told me, like, don't ever quit. So that is why I continue to do it. But not everyone's cut out to sell. So, sorry, I'm just plugging in my phone so that my battery doesn't die. And I have another technical challenge.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we don't need more. So those are kind of the overarching things. The problems are that when you talk about like really having a successful home care business, there's some key components that truly are critical to the success of your business. And one of those is differentiation. When you're out marketing, if you do not have some form of differentiation, if you don't have some way to effectively stand out from your competition, not only are your referral sources, but your prospects are going to look at you as if you're like everybody else, right? And I can guarantee you the people listening here, not everyone's got the same price. And what happens is when there's no differentiation, the only thing that people are going to look at is what's your price? How much do you charge?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a good strategy for that, and more importantly, you can have a good differentiator, but if you don't know how to effectively communicate it, then people are going to feel like you're selling to them. So, and sadly, this is how I was taught too, way back when. It's good to have a differentiator, yes, and then when you have the chance, make sure they know why you're different. That's awesome, but it's not, because what happens is when you start to talk about, well, we've got a nurse on call 24/7, and we're Joint Commission accredited, and we're on, and our caregivers are the best. Everyone says their caregivers are the best, right?
Of course they are.
Right, they are. I mean, trust me, I love our caregivers, but the reality is that folks, how you communicate it makes a difference, because with sales, if someone feels like they're being sold to, their shield or their guard starts to go up. Right? Oh, yeah. And we've all been there at some point. Think about the last time you bought like a high ticket item or something. If you ever felt like you're being sold to, you're just like, it's this protective mechanism. Mm-hmm. So how you communicate it is important. Make sure you do it in a way that's not salesy, and we can talk more about that later. Another thing is lack of strategy. All right, when people are out marketing their services, and again, this is how most people are taught, and I know this because we were taught this way, and a lot of my clients are taught this way, is, get out there, just start hitting up the assisted living facilities, the nursing homes, the rehab centers, the hospitals, get in every networking group that you could possibly get your hands on. Mm-hmm. Those things I'm not saying are bad. They're good. You want to get out there, but people aren't doing it strategically, right? They do what I call the spray and pray method. It's like, let's get my name out there.
Yeah, spray and pray. That's good.
And then, please, can I get a referral? I hope some comes in. You'll get some business from it. This is what I was doing the first 4 years. Like, we were getting some business. Our numbers weren't horrible, but it wasn't
sustainable.
It wasn't sustainable. Exactly. And the whole time I'm a nervous wreck. Like, oh gosh, if we lose this 24/7 case, like, what do we do? So it's having strategy and knowing, like, who are you calling on and the why. There's got to be a good, strong strategy behind it. Not really having a strong sales process is another issue that most people have, is they don't have a process for selling. And what do I mean about that? When you're out marketing, you need to be able to pre-qualify your accounts. When you're pre-qualifying accounts, you understand, is this a good referral source? I've talked to so many home care owners, and I've done this myself, where I call on an account like months, like hoping, all right, this should be a good one. And then 6 months, 8 months later, I find out, like, we don't refer private duty, or I've been told our administrator, because of liability reasons, we don't get involved with that. We let the families just deal with that stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'd go there, I'd bring them goodies, I'd spend money, I'd invest time, energy, months of doing this, and then realize, oh my gosh. So really understanding the process and asking the right pre-qualifying questions will help you know, is this a good account? How do we position our services when we do go back and we do present? So this is a really important piece to it. And, I talked a little bit about this, but when you're out marketing, or when you're on the phone with a potential prospect, you need to be able to understand how to quickly connect with your referral sources. And being likable is great, but there's actually tactics and strategies that you can use to start connecting with your referral sources much more quickly, because you don't have a lot of time and you're competing with a lot of other folks. And then my last little piece, and then I'll be done with this part, but it's important, is it's understanding the power of leverage, right? And what do I mean by that? When you really understand how to leverage assets that already exist in your business,
Mm-hmm.
and relationships that already exist, when you really understand how to fully leverage those things, you're going to start to see an accelerated rate of growth in your business and start to tap into all of these different things. It's kind of like, most people have a diving board approach to sales. It's like they do one thing and that's it. You need to start creating an entire platform, right? Internet marketing or online strategy needs to be a piece of that. Direct sales, direct referrals, sales needs to be a piece of that. Strategic alliances and relationships needs to be a piece of that. Tapping into, your network, and there's different ways to do that. All of these things, when you start to create these different platforms within your business, you minimize the risk of what happens if this stops working as well, right? You have this awesome referral source, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's not there anymore. They started their own home care agency, and you're like, all right, now what? So when you start to understand how to literally optimize each one of these areas, you mitigate risk, and then you start to accelerate growth. And that's really what we teach people how to do, is how do we take these different opportunities and optimize them so we're getting the most results. And it creates what I call, and I call it, I learned this from some of my mentors like Jay Abraham and Tony Robbins, we call it a multiplier effect, right? Typically, most people think logically 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, and that's true. But when you start to improve your intake call conversions a little bit and the number of referrals you get, and then you get really good and use a company like Valerie's to get good at your online strategy, and then you get good at leveraging referral sources with your strategic partners, and then you get good at leveraging opportunities with your internal team, your external team. When you start to take each one of these and incrementally improve them, instead of 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, it becomes 1 + 1 + 1 = 10 or 20 or 30.
Yep.
And that is how you grow a business. That is how you grow a business. So hope that was helpful to your people, but that's...
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's talk about the biggest question that a lot of our folks face, and that is, should a home care owner hire a salesperson or do it themselves?
That's a good question. And honestly, it depends, right?
Depends on
Right. It depends on partly on money. This is how I advise people. I really believe that to be successful in managing your sales team, you need to be out there and have done it yourself as the owner first.
Oh, yeah.
So this way, when you are managing your team and you're holding them accountable, you know what can be expected, right? Mm-hmm. And it's difficult to manage someone. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's more difficult to manage someone if you haven't been there before.
True.
If you haven't been in that role, at least know what you should be expecting from them. So what happens is you have owners that, and trust me, I came from sales, but I wanted to be the CEO, right? I wanted to be an owner.
Yeah.
And my vision was I wanted a business that could run mostly without me, right? Sure, yeah. It took me 8 years to get there, but a lot of lessons learned along the way. When I first started, it's I hired 2 salespeople from the start. And this is when we had more resources. Soon after that, the market crashed. I had an equity line. They shut down all equity lines. I don't need to get into the details of it, but the point is that I hired people early I did a little bit of it, but without really knowing, and we're going to talk about some of the mistakes that people make, without really knowing, how
Their pain.
Right. How can I hold them accountable the right way? Because I just didn't have enough information. So I always teach people, do it first, right? Get out there and market first. And there's 3 things, and I can speak to this from experience because I've literally hired 6 or 7 of the wrong people.
That's easy to do.
Okay. I'm not joking. 6 or 7 times I went through this process. So the first few years I hired 4 different people. Then years 2 through, let's say 6, I think it was, right after we had that big growth, I did it myself because we just didn't have the money, right? So I did it myself. And then year 7, I hired someone incorrectly again. Year 8, and my wife's like, listen, if you don't figure this out, like, we're not hiring someone again. We're not going to do it. And I was like, okay, all right. So I started to learn, once again, I mean, there's a quote that I talk about, like one of the training webinars that I do. It's from Albert Einstein, and I love it. It's like, the mind that created the problem is not the same one that can solve it.
Yeah, true.
So it's like when all these problems, like we create our own reality, whether we realize it or not. Like, we create our own reality. So I created all these technical issues today somehow, but we create our own reality. So because of the ego that I had, I'm thinking, all right, I can fix this. I've done sales before, and the sales that I knew before just didn't work quite the same way in the home care space. And some tactics did, but not all of it, right? So with this whole sales hiring process, I ran an entire sales team. I ran a mortgage company. I had like 10 or 12 salespeople working for me. I hired them all of them, every single one of them. So I'm thinking, all right, I can do this. Right? Once again, I couldn't do it. So I started to learn, like, all right, how's the right way to do this? And there's three core problems. One is most people hire the wrong person to begin with. Most people will start looking for someone who's got industry experience. They're like, I did this. And this is a common practice across a lot of businesses. Let's look for the person that's got the industry experience. They've got the connections. And then we hire them when we realize, like, they've got friends, but they're not bringing in the business. It's not coming. How come it's not coming? Right? So we look at, the industry experience first. Not all of us. Most people do this. And I realized, like, all right, one, there's a reason that they're looking. All right. There's a reason that most of your superstars truly are, their company wants to keep them. Not saying you can't find a superstar that's in the industry. You can. It's just very, very rare. So they hire the wrong person. When you're hiring a salesperson, you want to make sure that you're hiring based on characteristics and traits first. You can teach someone the industry. You cannot teach them to be personable. You cannot teach them to be a closer. You cannot teach them to be able to deal with rejection. These are certain characteristics and traits that you really can't teach them. Either they've got it. Now, they can evolve into that with maturity, but as a small business owner, we don't have the time or the resources really for someone to evolve. Like, when we make that investment, we kind of need to see a return much more quickly. So they hire the wrong person. There's certain types of, I'm a big believer in personality profiles. There's a certain type of profile that will significantly increase your likelihood of success, right? And if they don't fall within that, again, it's not to say they can't be successful, but I can promise you the odds of that are much, much, much lower if they don't have a certain type of personality profile. The second issue is that most people don't have a sales system. And we talked a little bit about it before, but it's really important that you do. You've got to have a sales system. You have to know how to pre-qualify accounts. You have to know how to, once you do pre-qualify accounts, well, it starts with getting past the gatekeeper, right? There's strategy and tactics. And I say get past the gatekeeper. Truly, it's befriending and building a relationship, because they can be a source of so much information that, we don't want to overlook that, right? And we can build a relationship with them. They can tell you, like, when's the best time to come back, and there's other things. Once you know how to do that, and you do finally get to the referral source, you have to know how to ask the right questions. And these questions will help position you for when you go back and you do your presentation, and then reasons to go back. And all of this is based on a model of value-based selling, right? Value-based marketing. Instead of going there and being like, we're not there to make friends. You can make friends and get referrals. I promise you that. You can do that. Some people do just the making friends, and others are just the, hey, do you have anything for me? And in the middle of that, I can add value to the relationship. And there's different ways to do that. We're not going to have time to talk about the different tactics for doing that, but there's definitely different ways to add value to the relationship. So this way, instead of, gosh, Gregg's here again. Great. And trust me, you're saying the same thing. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to say here today? What do I do? So when you really understand, like, from a systematic approach, how to go through the sales process, it makes things a lot easier. We're not guessing. We're not trying to figure out what should I be doing. It just becomes so much easier. So when you do that and you have a sales system, you hire someone that has the right characteristics, they have the right traits, and then you teach them the system and you teach them the industry, you can have someone that produces for your company.
Yeah.
You can have someone that produces for your company. There's one more really, really important piece here, Valerie. And I know this again from experience. And what I don't know is I say I hired the wrong person. I may or may not have. I just didn't know because I didn't know exactly what I was looking for in the beginning. Right? They seem likable, I'm going to hire them, right? They seem likable and they've been in the industry, I'm going to hire them.
Yeah.
Most people do not have a strong accountability system.
Oh, yeah.
When you hire a salesperson, you have to have an accountability system in place. All right. For those of you that I know, inevitably, there's people in my Facebook group or some of my clients that have read the book. It's a great book. There's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. So for those of you that are listening that haven't read it, I encourage you to go read it. It's a really good book. What he teaches is an employee operating system, how to get traction in your business. So we hired a consultant, a very expensive one, but well worth it when I look back in time to come into our business and kind of help us structure some things. And we combine that with an accountability system in our business. Mm-hmm. And when we did that, that was the time we were finally able to like truly step away from the business and manage our company based on a set of KPIs or key performance metrics, mm-hmm. right? And I'm talking mostly about sales, but this really can apply to all positions within the company. Okay. There's usually going to be 3 to 5 measurable things that are the most important things. And I'll give you an example for HR or for your recruiter. It's like how many hires, how many interviews per week, how many showed up, how many hires, right? And you mm-hmm. can take it a step further. We used to track the calls, and it was like at the end of the day, I just care about quality hires. So we just keep it simple. The more simple, the better.
Right.
What's the result that I'm looking for? With sales, there's certain things that we know, certain amount of sales calls, certain amount of in-services or CEUs. Like we had a whole sales strategy. So we would manage to those metrics, and then we would do weekly meetings to hold them accountable, to mm-hmm. go through the process of the KPIs. And it wasn't a beating stick like, you didn't do this. It was like, all right, where are the problems? Where are the gaps? And instead of waiting 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, you know where the gaps are weekly.
Yes.
Weekly.
Yep.
And sure, there might be a couple weeks where referrals are down, but as long as it's not a trend, you still catch it 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the road versus 3 months, 6 months down the road, which is what I did in the beginning. Is like, my wife's like, you need to kind of see like, how are they producing? I'm like, well, revenue's gone up a little bit, but the revenue was going up because of some of the things I did, not because of, or something like just some of the brand recognition or even online strategy, like some internet leads. So the revenue was going up, but I didn't have a good accountability system in place. And I was like, oh man, we weren't tracking things the right way. And if any one of those pieces are missing, your fail rate at hiring salespeople is pretty bad. I mean, in my experience, no, I haven't done official surveys on this, official ones, but I have.
I'd say you're right. I'd say you're right about that. If you don't have accountability, and that's for everything, you're right about that too. It's not just a salesperson, it's for everything in your business. On my end, hold somebody accountable to make sure that we're receiving their company news. Excuse me. If we're not, it's either you that needs to be accountable or someone in your organization. If you don't hold them accountable, nothing happens.
Yep. That's just the reality.
But it happens once or twice, and that's pretty much it.
The people that are on this call that come from the corporate world, they probably have a little bit more experience with that. But, mm-hmm. Small business owners, not. And I know there's a lot of people that come from the corporate world and get into the home care business, which is still totally different in so many ways. But from the perspective of like truly having success. Because I would go to our regional meetings, and even with our clients, like I would literally go into the room. I'd say, because I was struggling with this, and I'd be like, all right, how many people have, like really are happy, feel like you're getting a return on investment on your salesperson? And sometimes I hate saying, like, it makes it so impersonal. Oh, I'm getting a return on investment on my salesperson. But as a business owner, you do have to think that way. Like, am I getting a return on investment in their salary and, their commission structure and whatnot? Inevitably, be like 1 out of every 10 people would raise their hand.
Yeah.
Which means 90% of the people that had salespeople were not happy or were not getting a return on investment. And
you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, it comes down to those 3 things. I mean, that's just the reality. So for those of you that are like considering hiring a salesperson, make sure you do that. Like, make sure you have these things in place because it'll make a huge, huge difference in your business. I mean, the cost of a bad hire is way more than what most people think. It really is.
It's so painful.
It is. And I didn't realize like the true cost of it. Like, it's like, all right, I got some business in it. But then you think about like the relationships with the referral sources. It doesn't look good when your salesperson's there and then they're not, right? Yeah. And I've been through this. But anyway, that's the last piece with that. So hopefully, like for those of you that are ever considering like hiring a salesperson, look at that stuff and I think I did on our YouTube channel. I did one video on this. It was really just about the traits to look for in a salesperson. So if you guys want to see the video, I give you guys a free download of like the different traits to look for. Maybe that'll help some people. It's one little piece of it. It doesn't give you the whole, like, there's really a process for this. And we have a whole training program on it. But at the very least, if you're ever considering hiring a salesperson, that one little piece will help you. You can go just go look up Home Care Breakthrough Solutions on YouTube and go to our channel. And there's a video on there about hiring your next sales superstar or the traits for your next sales. Something along, I don't remember the title, but maybe that'll help some folks.
Okay, so we're in and out of time here. We're running out of time. So how can home care marketers compete in what is becoming an increasingly competitive market? Oh my gosh, everybody is opening a home care agency.
I know. And, and that trend will continue and the numbers will continue to swell as far as opportunity, but then also the competition. So stay ahead of the curve. What happens is that people do something, and I'm guilty of this, in the past, and I will never do it again, but you get complacent. You think, all right, things are working. I have clients now that have been in the industry 20 years, and whatever was working 20 years ago, the one thing that you can guarantee in the world and in life is that things will always change.
Yeah.
Right? They'll always change. And if you don't continue to up your skills and up your game and up your ability to run a business from both a strategic and a tactical approach, if you don't continue to do that, you're going to fall behind.
Yeah.
Because someone else is going to enter the marketplace. I'm sorry. This is true for me too. There's someone smarter than me. There's someone that has more money than me. There's always going to be someone that has more. And it's not about like, oh, then that means I'm not going to win. You can still win. You just have to continue to up your own game and continue to reinvest in yourself. And when you do that, you're going to be ahead of the curve and you're going to get more market share than some of your competition. So that's it. Last piece, like learning both the strategy side and the tactics. Like for each one of these things that we're talking about, like there's tactics for how to get past the gatekeeper. There's tactics for when you do present to a referral source, what is the right way to present, right? Something that we teach. I invested $7,500 in a program to learn how to do this way long time ago, and I applied it to my business. So when I would go out and do presentations, it would yield results. When you learn how to do like all these little things, it'll make a big difference in your business. So.
Okay, I'll give you, if you can make it quick, we have time for just the last question.
Okay.
Okay, if someone wants to make a big leap in revenue this year, what would you tell them to do?
Oh, gosh. That's a good question.
Run away.
All right, so
go to Mexico.
Thing is you have to, if things aren't working, you have to go outside of the box and you have to do things differently. All right. So if it's not working the way that you want it, or even if it is working, keep what's working and start to look at how you can incrementally improve different areas within your business. And we talked a little bit about it earlier, because what happens is when you get, even if you make incremental improvements, you have to understand the average lifetime value of a client in home care is about $12,300 something according to Home Care Pulse. So when you understand that, right, and you start to make investments in your business, like I'm going to learn how to do this and get really good at online marketing. So I'm going to learn from Val, right? That's one incremental improvement in your business. You say, when you want to get good at, like, I want to get good at my intake call conversions. You start to learn how to really master that piece, get your team trained. When you start to make these incremental improvements, again, this will create massive growth in your business. But sometimes it requires doing things a little bit differently. So,
great job, Gregg Mazza. You have overcome every technical difficulty that could possibly come your way today, and you just did a very fabulous interview.
Thanks.
So thank you.
I appreciate it. Well, oh wait, can I give? Sorry, I know we got to go, but two things. I've got two giveaways, and maybe I can. So there's two giveaways for your audience. One is I put together a blueprint that helped us get to a point in our business where we had over 150 caregivers. So that is www.freehomecareblueprint.com, www.freehomecareblueprint.com.
I'll put that on the screen for you.
Awesome. And then number two is I am doing a free training webinar tomorrow 5 p.m. Eastern time. So